Now we're going to insert the elastics. Going to line up with one of these lines that we made. We are actually going to sew in the ditch, in the seam allowance. Do not sew past here or you will not be able to turn it. So if you sew on this side of the seam, you won't be able to open that and turn it all the way around. So you'll want to make sure that you stay in the seam allowance. So you'll put that in the machine, you'll grab a piece of your elastic, and you want to kind of overlap them by just a little bit. So you'll make sure that the line is about a eighth of an inch to a quarter of an inch to the right side of your elastic. You'll stick that down in the machine. Like I said, you'll just want to stay on the outside of the seam. Go back and forth twice. Should be enough. I'll show it to you in just a second. See if my camera will focus on it. There it goes. So now we're going to, let me cut the threads real quick. Stretch it across and sew it at the other end. Stay in the seam allowance. It's very important. You will not be able to turn it otherwise. I think some people are going to be very happy to see this option for putting in the elastics. Now that is all bent, but when you stretch it, it goes across. Let's do the others. Turn the diaper around, grab the elastic, stick that on there. Sew only in the seam allowance. Go to the other end. Make sure when you stretch it across that you don't twist it. So you don't want it to be twisted. You want it to go straight over to the other side so that when you stretch it, it lays flat. All right. Like that. Let's do this back side. If you want to, you can sew a zigzag along there. Show you what that looks like. It will be harder to replace the elastics later, but it might hold them better. I'll show you what that looks like. I didn't do it very wide. Go ahead and sew on this side. Not sure if that's too close to the edge or not. I'm going to go ahead and sew it again. I don't want it to fall out. I get a little ambitious there. Alright. So now it's sewn down twice. It'll be even harder to replace the elastics. But knowing me, I would probably just replace the whole diaper. so easy to make. I don't sell my diapers. I give them away. Friends, coworkers, nephews. Sorry about that. I was cutting the threads and rambling. Alright, this is what it looks like. You have 3 elastics and a bunched up diaper. Now it is time to turn this officially. Just like you saw me do before and then undo. You'll turn this inside or right side out so that the pretty side is facing outward. And it'll actually scrunch up on you, which is fine. Do the other end. And what you see on the inside is a very scrunched up looking diaper. So now what we're going to do is we're going to top stitch all the way around. When we get to a place where the elastics are, so we're going to top stitch, I usually start at one elastic at the end of the elastic and go all the way around. So I'll be top stitching in my normal way. I'll show you. And then when I get to one of these lines, I'm going to stop and turn, go in towards the diaper to get off of the end of the elastic, and then I'm going to stretch the fabric while sewing down it along the side of the elastic. We're not going to sew on the elastic. Let me grab my handy dandy screwdriver real quick and poke my corners so they're nice and sharp again. And then we'll start top stitching. I hope the camera is not going to be in my way when I top stitch because I can't really get my face too close. But we'll see. I'm going to keep hitting the camera. Hope no one's getting sick watching it. Alright. I'm going to start right here. This is such a tiny little diaper. I like to rub the fabric between my fingers to get the seam to come all the way to the edge. I'm going to start right on that line. Now when I top stitch, I place the edge of the fabric right in, see if you can see it, that edge. Let me try to zoom in. Wow, I think that worked. And I'm going to stick the edge of the fabric right there. Should I sew like that for just a minute? Do I dare? Oh, I'm still on my zigzag. We've all done it. Don't laugh. All right. You see how you can still see the corner, the edge of my fabric? Let's use my owl to point at it. You can still see the edge of the fabric right there in the corner of my foot. That was a curve that I'm not sure I took very well. If you take the turn, oh, let me zoom back out. If you take the turn and you're not sure if you're in the right spot, you need to go back, you can always turn back and come back at it again. Rubber fabric. I cannot see very well. We shall see if this ends up. I just need to get my seam pushed out. There we go. I'm going really slow. Not slower than normal, but zoom back out again so you can see more of what I'm doing. Rub this, lower it back down. I didn't top stitch my Minky diaper. I thought it looked nice without it. Alright, I'm almost to my elastic here. And you'll be able to see what I'm doing. Or what I mean by that. Get to that blue line. Turn inward. Now, up under here is my piece of elastic. I am going to make sure it is on the top side of the seam allowance. So I'm just going to shove it up in there. And as I'm going along, I'm going to keep shoving it up in there because it's going to keep trying to come back out. So I'm going to sew maybe 5 stitches in. That got me off of the side of the elastic. You can actually feel that it's off of there. I hate that I'm showing you this with such a tiny little diaper. I can't even hardly get my hands in it. Alright, so like I said, I make sure that the seam allowance, this is the seam allowance, push that down. Put the elastic, you can stretch it a little bit, especially when the needle's in there. If the needle is down, you can pull on this all you want. If the needle is up, you're risking pulling your diaper out of the machine, so don't pull on it too hard. So stick the elastic in there, right so the edge of the elastic is right on the seam, and then fold that fabric over. Grab the, oh, sorry about the shaking. I might not have enough room to do this. Grab the diaper with both hands. Let me see if I can get my arm on the other side. Ah! Shaking. I'm going to move you back just a little bit. That might be a better view. Alright. Get the elastic up in there, fold that over. Grab it from behind because you're going to be pulling against it. Grab it at both ends. Put your foot down. Grab it at both ends and go. Stay off the edge of the elastic. You don't want to be sewing onto the elastic. Now as you do this, you can leave the foot down. You can pull on your elastic a little bit. It sort of scrunches up the part that you've already sewn, so you have more room to keep sewing the rest of it. Put the elastic on top of the seam allowance. Roll the fabric over on top of it. Grab both ends. Sew a little bit further. And you can grab more elastic. You can let the back sides crunch up a little bit more. Pull your elastic through. I don't know how people find this faster. Make sure that it's sitting on top of your seam allowance. So I have my seam allowance, and then this is my elastic right there. Stretch it straight. Pull that fabric over on top of it. Pull it on both ends. You'll just grab a hold of it, both ends. Sew a few more stitches. I think I may be able to go all the way now. All the way to the line. Stop at the line. Turn back toward the edge. And continue top stitching till we get to the next one. I'm going to skip this part for you. Alright, now I've top stitched this entire wing all the way around here, and I'm to the next elastic. Now my elastic is up in there, but it's not where the seam allowance is, so I'm going to reach up in there. I hope you can see it with my hands in the way and everything. Put the seam allowance down, put the elastic on top of it, tuck it into that corner as tight as I can, pull the fabric over across it. Oh, I forgot to turn. Sew in 5 stitches. Make sure your elastic's up out of the way, so you don't want to be on the elastic. I like 5 stitches. Your machine might be different if your stitch length is longer or shorter. Get your elastic poked up in there. Make sure it's on top of the seam allowance. Make sure it's flat. Having trouble getting the fabric all the way out. Alright, so what I'm going to do this time, I'm going to actually just pull it on both ends so that it's perfectly flat, perfectly straight, stretched all the way across. I'm going to reach up in there, put it on top of my seam allowance. Chances are it won't stay straight, but that was the only way I could get it to... Ah! Put your foot down. What I did there is I just stretched it at both ends. It may not have turned out perfect. We'll see. We're going to keep top stitching all the way around. Put your foot down. I'm more or less reminding myself to put the foot down. I keep forgetting. Let's see what this looks like. Not too shabby. I normally make tighter casings than that, but that one will work. Yeah, I normally use this leg arm thing that raises and lowers the foot for me, so I almost never have to worry about putting the foot down. I just release it with my leg before I press on the... It's the same leg that presses the pedal on the sewing machine, and so it's just a natural flow. Do 6, just make sure I'm in there far enough. Alright. Put it on top of the seam allowance, fold the fabric over, stretch it up tight. pull the elastic through a little bit further. You don't want to sew on your elastic. It's kind of important. Stretch it at both ends. Go to the line, turn, and this is our last little bit because I top stitched this part already. Back stitch, and we're done. My foot just fell out. Silly. Alright, let me get this all straightened out and I'll show it to you. Alright, let's cut my threads real quick. So here is the front. We haven't put the elastic or the snaps on yet, but here is the back. The legs are nice and tight. I can still stretch the fabric all the way. I have not sewn over my elastic, which is great. Alright, let's go ahead and put these 2 snaps in, or 4 snaps in, sorry. There's 4 of them. It's so little. I just can't get over how little they are. Here's the minky. Alright, so what I like to do is I like to line this up. Let me make sure you guys can still see it. I like to line this up so that you can see the tabs. Let's check this real quick. Yep. I usually do a pretty good job of making the 2 tabs exactly the same size, but sometimes it can't be helped. Alright. So in this case, it looks like my elastic, or my snaps, I keep saying elastic, is going to be right on the edge there. Pretty much as tight as I can get it to the edge without falling off. Poke the snap in here. Let me do all 4 of these and I'll press record again. And just like that, my mini little newborn diaper is done. Isn't it cute? It's navy blue with some comics on the front. We just have comics on the back. Got Spider-Man front and center and on the bum. Thanks for watching.